Well, here we are, ham radio, a ham radio class for those who might have your amateur general class license or advanced class license and you want to upgrade to the extra class. That's what we're concluding tonight. We've been going through this book, the American Radio Relay League's License Manual for the extra class, the 13th edition book. That's the one you want. And we've gone through all the chapters. And tonight what we're going to do is actually take some 50-question practice tests. These are the actual questions and the actual answers that you might see on your test. Now, we'll talk more about that as we go along. Oh, I'm Gary. I'm your instructor tonight. And my friend Dave, KE4EA, is checked in remotely with us. And so we'll maybe hear from him later on tonight. So I'm sure you've already got your test session scheduled, but if not, here's the resources. Bruce, if you go to the laptop, you can use the ARRL Find a Club URL or hamstudy.org/sessions to find a test session in your area. And you can take the test online if that's what you'd like to do. In the, whoops, hello, why am I not updating? And my computer has crashed. There we go. Okay. So there's 602 questions in the question pool for the amateur extra class. And so from those 602 questions, and we've gone over all of those here in the class, we pick out 50 of them. I use the American Radio Relay League site to do it for me. And then we generate a practice test. So this is practice test number 2 tonight because we took a practice test last week. So that was practice test number 1. So we'll do 2 and 3, practice tests 2 and 3 tonight. So if you would, if you're following along with us on YouTube as well, please get out a sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil. And we want a number from 1 to 50. You can do it as you go along if that's easier for you. Just try to stay synchronized. You'll see the questions on the screen. I won't read them unless somebody has a problem seeing them. But I will, for those who might be visually impaired, read the question and the right answer when we go over the answers. Oh, and on this first test, you can do better than me, because I took the test and I got one wrong. So let's see if you can beat the instructor tonight. So good luck. We're going to go through 50 questions. Again, if you're in the Zoom classroom, when you're done reading the question, you've got your answer, maybe briefly raise your hand so I can see that. And if I need to slow down or speed up, go ahead and unmute and let me know. All right, here is, for the first test, question number 1. And now, question 2. if I go too fast, just tell me. Here's question 3. And now, question 4. And now, question 5. And here is question 6. And now, question 7. And here is question 8. And question 9. And here is question 10. And now, question 11. And question 12. Next up is question 13. And now, question 14. And here is question 15. And next, question 16. And now, question 17. And here is question 18. And question 19. Question 20 is a pictorial. What is the purpose of Q1? All right, and question 21. And question 22. And here is question 23. And next up is question 24. And now, question 25. And question 26. And here we go with question 27. And now, question 28. At the end, we can always go back and look at a question again. Here's 28. And now question 29. Alrighty, and question 30. And now, question 31. And 32. Next is 33. Here is 34. And now 35. And 36. And now 37. And here is question 38. And 39 is another pictorial. What is the front to back ratio of the radiation pattern? Next is question 40. And here's question 41. And question 42. Here is question 43. And question 44. And question 45. And 46. Okay, here's 47. And here's 48. And here's 49. And now the last question, 50. All right, are there any questions which you'd like us to go back and look at again? If you're in the Zoom classroom, just unmute and let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, you can put it in the chat. And I'm not seeing anything on YouTube, and I'm not hearing anything on Zoom, so let's see how we did. Let's look at some answers here. Answer 1, what is the advantage of including parity bits in ASCII characters? D, some types of errors can be detected. 2, what function is performed by fast Fourier transform? B, converting signals from the time domain to the frequency domain. 2B. 3, what type of radiation pattern is created by a single terminated loop, such as a pennant antenna? D, cardioid. 3D. Heart-shaped. 4, which of the following constitutes a spurious emission? A, an emission outside the signal's necessary bandwidth that can be reduced or eliminated without affecting the information transmitted. 4A. And 5, who is responsible for the proper conduct and necessary supervision during an amateur operator license exam session? C, each and all administering VE. 5C. You have to have at least 3, and they're all responsible. 6, what is frequency division multiplexing? D, dividing the transmitted signal into separate frequency bands that each carry a different data stream. 6D. And 7, how much does the gain of an ideal parabolic reflector antenna increase when the operating frequency is doubled? It goes up by 6 dB, 7C. And 8, what is the operating point of a Class A common emitter amplifier? D, approximately halfway between saturation and cutoff, 8D. And 9, what is the highest legal carrier frequency on the 20-meter band for transmitting a 2.8 kilohertz wide USB data signal? That would be 14.1472, 19C, or 9C, sorry, 10. What is the magnitude of the impedance of a series RLC circuit at resonance? C, approximately equal to circuit resistance, 10C. I'm seeing one thing and saying another. All right. 11, what kind of diagram is used to show the phase relationship between impedances at a given frequency? That's D, a phasor diagram, 11D. 12, what effect does lowering a signal's transmitted elevation angle have on ionospheric HF skip propagation? The distance covered by each hop increases with a lower angle of radiation, 12B. And 13, what devices are commonly used as VHF and UHF parasitic suppressors at the input and output terminals of a transistor HF amplifier? That would be ferrite beads, 13B. And 14, which characteristic of a Schottky diode makes it a better choice than a silicon junction diode for use as a power supply rectifier? A, lower forward voltage drop, 14A. And 15, which matching system for Yagi antennas requires the driven element to be insulated from the boom? That's a beta or hairpin match, 15C. And 16, what is a depletion mode field effect transistor? It's an FET that exhibits a current flow between the source and drain when no gate voltage is applied, 16C. And 17, what is the most common configuration of an optoisolator or optocoupler? That's B, an LED and a phototransistor, 17B. And 18, which of the following is indicated by a sudden rise in radio background noise across a large portion of the HF spectrum? That's B, a coronal mass ejection impact or solar flare has occurred, 18B. And 19, in what portion of the 630 meter band are phone emissions permitted? Across the entire band, 19B. And 20, what is the purpose of Q1 in the circuit shown? B, it controls the current to keep the output voltage constant, 20B. And 21, what type of modulation is used by JT65? B, multitone AFSK, audio frequency shift keying, 21B. All right, here's your chance to pull ahead of me. This is a new question this year. 22, which of the following is characteristic of the FST4 mode? All of these. 4-tone Gaussian frequency shift keying, variable transmit and receive periods, 7 different tone spacings. And I provided an article on the FST4 mode in last week's handouts, and I'll copy it again in this week's as well, because I'm not familiar with this, but we're going to get familiar. 23, under what circumstances may a dealer sell an external RF power amplifier capable of operation below 144 megahertz if it has not been granted FCC certification? D, the amplifier is constructed or modified by an amateur radio operator for use at an amateur station, 23D. And 24, what are the 3 common oscillator circuits? They're B, Colpitts, Hartley, and Pierce. And you got to be of a certain age to know what some of the other ones are, but 24B. And 25, what is meant by the term op-amp input offset voltage? That's B, the differential input voltage needed to bring the open loop output voltage to 0, 25B. And 26, what logical operation does an OR gate perform? D, it produces a 1 at its output if any input is 1, 26D. And 27, how can conducted noise from an automobile battery charging system be suppressed? C, by installing ferrite chokes on the charging system leads, 27C. And 28, what type of coordinate system is used in a Smith chart? D, resistance circles and reactance arcs, 28D. And 29, what is an advantage of having a variety of receiver bandwidths from which to select? C, receive bandwidth can be set to match the modulation bandwidth, maximizing signal-to-noise ratio and minimizing interference, 29C. And 30, what is the result of conductor skin effect? A, resistance increases as frequency increases because RF current flows closer to the surface and in a narrower range so that you have higher resistance, 30A. And 31, what is a crystal lattice filter? C, a filter for low-level signals made using quartz crystals, 31C. And 32, in digital television, what does a coding rate of 3/4 mean? B, 25% of the data sent is forward error correction data, 32B. And 33, how does a diode envelope detector function? A, by rectification and filtering of RF signals. And 34, what is most likely to result in auroral propagation? Severe geomagnetic storms. 34D, that's what causes aurora. And 35, what is susceptance? A, it's the imaginary part of admittance. 35A. And 36, what is the effect of adding a terminating resistor to a rhombic or long wire antenna? A, it changes the radiation pattern from bidirectional to unidirectional. 36A. And 37, why should effective radiated power be limited to a satellite that uses a linear transponder? C, to avoid reducing the downlink power to all other users. 37C, don't be a power hog. And 38, what is tri-state logic? D, it's logic devices with a 0, 1, and also a high impedance output state. And 39 was a pictorial. What is the front to back ratio of the radiation pattern? 28 dB, 39A. And 40, what factors affect the bandwidth of a transmitted CW signal? Keying speed and the shape factor of the transmitter, the rise and fall times, 40C. And how much gain does an antenna have compared to a half wavelength dipole if it has 6 dB gain over an isotropic radiator? The difference is 2.15 dB, so 6 dB minus 2.15 dB is 3.85 dB, 41D. And 42, which of the following types of equipment are exempt from RF exposure evaluations? Handheld transceivers sold before May 3rd, 2021, 42D. And 43, what is a space telecommand station? It's an amateur station that transmits communications to initiate, modify, or terminate functions of a space station, 43D. And 44, what impedance does a half wavelength transmission line present to an RF generator when the line is shorted at the far end? Half wavelength lines are impedance repeaters, so it presents a very low impedance, 44B. And 45, which of the following can be measured by a two-port vector network analyzer? A, filter frequency response, because you're using the output from the generator going through the filter and back into the input of the VNA, so 45A. And 46, what indicator is required to be used by U.S. licensed operators when operating a station via remote control and the remote transmitter is located in the U.S.? No additional indicator besides your call sign is required, 46B. And the technology is so good that people can't tell if you're operating remote. All right, 47, what characteristic of MMICs make them a popular choice for VHF through microwave circuits? B, controlled gain, low noise figure, constant input and output impedance over a specified frequency range, 47B. And 48, which trigger mode is most effective when using an oscilloscope to measure a linear power supply's output ripple? You'd use the line triggering, which triggers on the 60 hertz power line in the United States, so 48D. You're trying to find ripple. And 49, which of the following is a measure of the quality of an analog to digital converter? We use total harmonic distortion, 49D. And 50, Which of the following describes problems caused by poor dynamic range in a receiver? You'll get spurious signals caused by cross-modulation and desensitization from strong adjacent signals, 50B. So how did you do? 74%? I think it's you can get up to 13 wrong. You don't have to tell, but you grade your own paper. That's the beauty of this. But okay, now your brain has been heated up. We're warmed up. Let's take 5 minutes as a break, get up, move around, stretch, and we'll come back and take the final practice test and end out the class. So 5 minutes, and we'll see you in just a bit. back. Before we go on with our final practice test tonight, I wanted to comment on some questions that came in via the YouTube chat. Thank you, Peter. Good questions. So he asks, how can you understand what is the right answer from the four answers that are given? And I think generally you'll find that two of the four answers are maybe way out there. They're called distractors. They're not even close to being the right answer. And then two could be. And so it's differentiating between those two, which is the right answer. I highly recommend that you do your best to try to understand why the right answer is the right answer, as opposed to just memorizing and not understanding, because it goes so much further in your development if you have an understanding. If you're hell-bent on memorization, I will point out in the link for handouts, which you'll find for YouTube in the description box on all of the videos. It's a common Dropbox link. In the folders, you will find what we call the Right Answers Study Guide for each chapter. And there you will find the test question and just the right answer associated with it. So that might be a tool that you could use to aid you going through. Always remember, too, that these are the test questions and these are the answers that you will see on the test, but they're not in the same order that you're going to see on the test. So don't memorize A, B, C, or D. That'll do you no good whatsoever. But the text, the answer, that's what you want to be understanding. All right, so we're going to go on to practice test number 3. And so get out your piece of paper, please, and number it 1 through 50, as we did before. And if you've got questions as we go along, go ahead and unmute and let me know, or tell me to slow down if that's what we need. But here we go, another 50 questions. You can do this. And the more practice tests you take, I think you should take at least a dozen or so before you go to take your actual test, the better you'll feel when you do take your actual test. All right, here we go. Here's question number 1. And here is question 2. And now, question 3. And question 4. Now, question 5. Here we go with question 6. And now, question 7. question number 8. And question 9. And here we go with question 10. And next up, question 11. Okay. And question 12. And here we go with question 13. On the Smith chart shown, what is the only straight line? And question 14. And here we go to question 15. And now question 16. And now question 17. And now question 18. And here we go with question 19. And here we go with question 20. And now question 21. And here is question 22. And now question 23, it's another diagram. What is the front to back ratio of the radiation pattern shown? And 24. And here is 25. And next up is 26. Okay, and 27. And 28. And now, question 29. And here is 30. And now question 31. And next is 32. And here is 33. 34. And now 35. And here we go with 36. And 37. And 38. And now 39. Here is 40. And here is 41. Next up is 42. And here we go with 43. And 44 is a pictorial. What is the purpose of R3? And next up is 45. And next up is 46. Here we go with 47. here we go with question 48. Okay, and 49. And here is question 50. Okay, are there any questions you'd like us to go back and take a look at again? If you're in the Zoom classroom, just unmute and speak out.
Could you do 36 one more time?
36, absolutely. Oops, but I gotta go the right way. There's 36. Any others? I'm not seeing anything in the YouTube chat. So the question is, how did you do? And come back to me just for a second, Bruce, if you would. So these tests were generated from the American Radio Relay League site, where we've been reviewing test questions for each chapter. You can also generate practice tests there, either in printed or online form. And so I just used their system to generate 2 tests. You'll notice there were some overlaps, or there were some duplicates. Some questions you saw on the first test we saw on the second test. That's an advantage, because you can go through, as you take more practice tests, you'll go, oh, I saw that before. I remember that one. That's also a learning, part of the learning process. I'll put that link in an email to you tomorrow morning, just so you can go back if you don't already have it bookmarked, and use that to take more practice tests. Or you can use an app on your phone, as long as it's with the current question pool. That's the trick. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some answers. Here is answer number 1. How is color information sent in analog slow scan TV? Color lines are sent sequentially. 1A. 2. Which of the following is used to measure SWR? All of these choices can be used: a directional watt meter, a vector network analyzer, or an antenna analyzer, so 2A. And 3, how are impedances described in polar coordinates? By magnitude and phase angle, 3D. And 4, what is a typical range for tropospheric duct propagation of microwave signals? That would be 100 to 300 miles, 4A. And 5, what characteristic of a PIN diode makes it useful as an RF switch? It has low junction capacitance. That's important because RF can't leak through when it's reverse biased. So 5C. And 6, what is the term for the frequency at which the grounded base, note grounded base, current gain of a bipolar junction transistor has decreased to 0.7 of the gain obtained at 1 kilohertz? That is known as the alpha cutoff frequency, because it's grounded base. Alpha cutoff frequency, 6C. And 7, how is power supplied to the most common type of MMIC? A, through a resistor and or RF choke connected to the amplifier's output lead? 7A. And 8, what core material property determines the inductance of an inductor? That's permeability, 8D. 9, which circuit is bistable? That's a flip-flop, 9B. And 10, what is the purpose of the series capacitor in a gamma match? The capacitor cancels unwanted inductive reactance, 10D. And 11, what happens to SWR bandwidth when one or more loading coils are used to resonate an electrically short antenna? SWR bandwidth is decreased, 11B. And 12, how is the Q of an RLC parallel resonant circuit calculated? Resistance divided by the reactance of either the inductance or capacitance, 12D. 13, on the Smith chart, what is the only straight line? A, the resistance axis. And 14, why should effective radiated power be limited to a satellite that uses a linear transponder? A, to avoid reducing the downlink power to all other users, 14A. Notice over in the right-hand corner, so on these answers also, there's a page number in the book. You can go back and take a look if you want to find out more information. All right, 15, what do the subscripts of S parameters represent? They represent the port or ports at which measurements are made, 15A. And 16, what must be posted at the location of a station being operated by telecommand on or within 50 kilometers of the Earth's surface? I'm not real happy with this question. This is the balloon that is being operated by remote control. So you have to have a label with the name, address, and phone number of the control operator, the same of the station licensee, and a photocopy of the station license, so all of those, 16C. And 17, which of the following is generally true of finite impulse response filters? FIR filters can delay all frequency components of the signal by the same amount, 17D. And 18, what is the efficiency of a photovoltaic cell? It's A, the relative fraction of light that is converted to current, 18A. 19, when may an amateur station send a message to a business? B, when neither the amateur nor their employer has a, I love this word, pecuniary interest in the communications. Comes from the 1934 Communications Act, 19B. And 20, how is positive feedback supplied in a Colpitts oscillator? C, Colpitts oscillator, C, the letter C. It's through a capacitive divider. That's what I'm trying to get you to remember, 20A. And 21, what is the approximate bandwidth of a 13 word per minute international Morse code transmission? It's approximately 52 hertz, 21A. And 22, what is the noise figure of a receiver? It's the ratio in dB of the noise generated by the receiver compared, they don't have that word there, to the theoretical minimum noise, 22B. And 23, what is the front to back ratio of the radiation pattern? It's still 28 dB, A, 23A. And 24, what indicates the delay between a control operator action and the corresponding change in the transmitted signal? That's called latency, 24D. And 25, what does PRB1 require of state and local regulations affecting amateur radio? The two words are reasonable accommodation of amateur radio must be made, 25B. 26, how are the capacitors and inductors of a low-pass pi network arranged between the network's input and output. I wanted to say filter there, but there's no filter. It's a capacitor. It's connected between the input and the ground. Could be variable. Another capacitor is connected between the output and ground. Could be variable. And an inductor is connected between the input and output. Also could be variable. So that's a pi network. 26B. Used a lot in antenna tuners. And 27, what does SAR measure? Specific absorption rate. It is the rate at which RF energy is absorbed by the body. 27D. And 28, which of these digital modes has the narrowest bandwidth? FT8 at about 50 Hertz. 28C. And 29, what is indicated by a rising A index or K index? If they're going up, it means there's increasing disturbance of the geomagnetic field. 29D. And 30, what effect does lowering a signal's transmitted elevation angle have on ionospheric HF skip propagation? The lower the angle, the distance covered by each hop will increase. 30C. And 31, what licensing is required when operating an amateur station aboard a U.S. registered vessel in international waters? Any FCC-issued amateur license, so 31C, and the captain's permission. They don't have it there, but I'm going to make that point. All right, 32, which of the following describes an extended double ZEP antenna that is a center-fed 1.25 wavelength dipole antenna? 32C. And 33, which frequency band has the smallest first Fresnel zone? That's the highest frequency band indicated there, 5.8 gigahertz, 33C. And 34, what type of radiation pattern is created by a single-turn terminated loop, such as a pennant? That's a cardioid or heart-shaped pattern, 34D. What is susceptance? It's the imaginary part of admittance, 35D. And 36, what is an operational amplifier? It is a high-gain, direct-coupled, differential amplifier with very high input impedance and very low output impedance, 36C. And 37, what must the VE team do with the application form if the examinee does not pass the exam? They must return the application document to the examinee, 37D. And 38, what device is used as a stable voltage reference? That's a Zener diode, 38C. 39, what is the modulation index of an FM phone signal having a maximum frequency deviation of 3,000 Hertz? If the highest modulating frequency is 1,000 Hertz, it's the big number divided by the small number 3, 39A. And 40, why do CMOS digital integrated circuits have high immunity to noise on the input signal or power supply? It's A, the input switching threshold is about half the power supply voltage, 40A. And 41, as a conductor's diameter increases, what is the effect on its electrical length? It increases. As the diameter increases, the conductor diameter increases, the electrical length also increases, 41A. And 42, what does a third order intercept level of 40 dBm mean with respect to receiver performance? And the answer has a pair of 40 dBm input signals, that's the phrase to look for, will theoretically generate a third order intermodulation product that has the same output amplitude as either of the input signals, so 42A. And 43, why are received spread spectrum signals resistant to interference? C, signals not using the spread spectrum algorithm are suppressed in the receiver, 43C. And in 44 in the diagram, what is the purpose of R3? That is self-bias. We used to call that an emitter bias resistor. As the transistor heats up, it has a tendency to want to increase current. That prevents that. So 44A, self-bias. And 45, why is the electrical length of a coaxial cable longer than its physical length? Electromagnetic waves move more slowly in coaxial cable than in air, 45C. And 46, what technology is used for real-time tracking of balloons carrying amateur radio transmitters? That's APRS, 46C. And 47, how does a diode envelope detector function? By rectification and filtering of RF signals. That's an AM detector, 47B. And 48, what is the benefit of making voltage measurements with a true RMS calculating meter? RMS is measured for both sinusoidal and non-sinusoidal signals. It's the effective power that was required to heat something to a certain temperature, so 48C. You can use sine waves or complex waveforms. And 49, what is the purpose of a single point ground panel? B, ensuring all lightning protectors activate at the same time, 49B. And 50, what is the maximum bandwidth for data emission on 60 meters? 2.8 kilohertz, 50B. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the practice test and the end of our class. I want to point out that when you pass your extra exam, and you will, you're going to have some additional responsibilities. As an extra class operator, I want you to think about these things, if you would. Help others in the hobby. Bruce, laptop, please. Thank you. Help others in the hobby. Be an Elmer to another ham radio operator if you can. Share resources, loan them a book or something, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't, get in the nasty pileups, and just be a good amateur radio operator. Please tell others about our channel if you would. Here's the URL for the channel. Our classes are always free, but we do have expenses, so think about that. And handouts are linked in the Dropbox link in the description box on YouTube, so you can always go take a look and see. And then after you pass your test, and you will, if you would, we work on the value for value model. If the training was worth it to you, we accept donations at my website or on YouTube with the super thanks button there. But it helps us to buy new equipment or improve some things for upcoming classes and videos. Really appreciate it. So that is all I have. I say thank you and good night. Let me undo the spotlight here on Zoom, and let me ask my cohort in crime, Dave Ivey, do you have any final comments for us tonight?
No, I followed along through all of this, and hope you all do well and feel confident about taking your test. There was one question. Peter Stark asked what was question 47, so I don't know if you've got that right in front of you, Gary, but that was the only question that came in. Other than that, though, thanks everyone for hanging in there with us.
Well, of course, I just jumped out of the, whoops. Let me go back to question 47. Oops. Okay, so how does a diode envelope detector function? This is what you would have in a common AM radio, a 1N34 diode, which will rectify the RF signal, and then capacitors that follow that filter it, and the output you get is audio from that point. So that's how it functions, by rectification and filtering. That's a diode envelope detector. All right. Well, we do have coming up in February for friends of, if you've got somebody who knows that they want to get their license, we have a technician class coming up. And then also we have a general class, upgrade class. So if somebody's got their technician and they want to upgrade to general, just to have them send me an email and we'll get them registered. I want to say thank you very much for being great students, very attentive. Appreciate you. And I will say 73, and I will see you, and Dave will see you on the bands or at a Ham Fest. Look us up.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
y'all.
it.
Thank you.